If you take a moment, you will find that people are living in a state of economic despair. They commute long hours to work since they're unable to afford a house in the area that they work. They grind themselves down to the bone in every aspect of their lives. They're burnt out, tired, and fed up. Of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, but most certainly to a growing number of people. As debt reaches impossible heights, it's quite obvious there's only one way to go, and most will never even see it coming. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at a topic I cover on a regular basis where people are moving in and out of. You have to understand there is migration that happens within the states. You can see where people are moving within a particular state. If they're in New York, maybe they're moving upstate, maybe they're moving out to Florida. You got to see what's happening. It isn't just one-dimensional. I'm going to bring up some of the activities that are occurring today. I wanted to begin by taking a look at this, where the population is changing. Percent population change by metropolitan and micropolitan statistical area 2017-2018. You could see it here on this directly from the Census Bureau, just showing you the numbers. The dark purple areas have a higher percentage change, and that just shows you we are seeing this particularly on the West Coast as well as in Florida. So those are something that I have found to be typical here. As we go into the other ones, I'm going to show you this from various sources, from various years, just to give you a wide range. Because if you look at just one site, you look at just one piece of the information, it's not going to make that picture really full. And that's what I want to do. I want to give you some of that broad knowledge. This is coming out of Business Insider. They are also publishing the same data coming out of the US Census Bureau. Here are the fastest growing and shrinking counties in America. You can see here that the dark blue areas are over 2%, and this looks similar to what we saw on the previous, where we have more of the West Coast seeing that over 2% number, as well as Florida. And this tells us something about what's happening. We can actually see this, and if you look at the real estate prices in Florida, some of these areas are doing very well, while we have others that have not done so well over the last year. Let's say an area like Florida has seen that, and we also witnessed this during the whole boom that we saw throughout 2006 into 2007. Towards the end there, Florida was doing very, very well. However, it got overdeveloped quite significantly. Actually, I think the vacancy rate was something like 18% or so at its absolute peak. So that's never a good sign. But this happens to be one thing that I have noted, and that is people today are in so much debt. They have way too much on their hands, on their plate. And so what do? They need to figure out a way. A lot of people, they've been commuting longer hours to work. I'll cover that in just a second. But you've also seen it being a problem where they simply leave. They either move to a different part of the state, or they get out of that state altogether to a lower tax state in some cases. They're just seeing that this has been happening for quite some time in growing numbers. According to the latest information published by the US Census Bureau, the percentage of people that move every year equates to 14% of the population, or roughly 40 million people. And that actually exceeded my suspicions. That I knew there was a lot of people moving, but I didn't think that it was this much. I mean, we're talking about large numbers. However, there are trends. More people are moving out of certain areas, less people out of other areas, and we are seeing more people moving in. There's always going to be people moving in and out. That is a fact of life. That's the way it goes. However, if we see the trend happening, we can start to pinpoint why that is the case. You're looking at the red areas, which are outbound, and the blue areas, which are inbound. And you're seeing right here, California being one of those outbound, Texas and Florida happen to be the inbound. And these are areas that are lower taxes. We are seeing this as well when you look at all of the different areas that have cheaper housing and so on. California being very expensive, New York being very expensive, and we watch this happen. Look at the bottom, top inbound states. Idaho on top of the list. Arizona, South Carolina, Tennessee, North Carolina, all inbound states. If you look at the outbound states, Illinois, California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. So that's just some information for you on top of all of that. Looking at this, statewide, 48,500 people left New York. 48,500 people left New York, which was one of just 9 states to lose population over the previous year. They mention the fact it's a small percentage of the total, but it just shows you that people are fed up with what's going on. You can see so many people, they are tired of paying $19,000 a year for their property taxes. That's absurdity. They can't even sell their home. I bet many more people would be moving if they could actually sell their home, but they can't because the prices are continuously falling. If you look, even Ryan Serhant actually commented on one of my videos related to real estate, and he suggested that I was bang on with what I was talking about, how the slowdown is very apparent in New York City. I can't remember which video it was, but Ryan Serhant from the Millionaire Listing New York actually put a comment, dropped it, said, "You're correct." Now, that just shows you that individuals in the know happen to see all of this data. They know exactly what's going on. They are at the grassroots. They have their feet on the ground and look at what's happening in areas like New York, places like California. I mean, look, Baltimore happens to be another one, obviously. There are many different reasons why people move in and out of these areas, but I'm just showing you some examples of that. This is from CNBC. This 30-year-old commutes 4 hours and 140 miles for work in San Francisco every day. This is an extreme example, but I know so many people in Toronto that travel 1 hour and a half on a train every single day. If you're from Toronto or know the area, they go from Barrie to downtown Toronto. That's an hour and a half train ride, plus the distance in between their work, whatever that might be. It might be a 5-minute, 10-minute, or even 15-minute walk. Maybe you're going to take the subway, or you get off at your home, your destination, you're getting off the train. You don't live beside the train. You still have to commute to your home. So we're talking about people that do commute 4 hours every single day. And this is not an extreme example here in Toronto. There are many people that do this, and I know that individuals here, if you live here, I'm sure you know somebody in this area that do that as well. So this wouldn't surprise me, although it doesn't really account for everybody. I mean, trying to suggest that everybody is doing this, that's not the case. However, this is happening. People cannot afford the prices, so what do? Well, the jobs are there. They're in the main city. They're not in the northern parts. They're not in the outskirts, so they have to travel long distances just to be able to pick up the pace to be making the money that they need, and it's suddenly something so unusual historically. Previously, you would not have these problems, but it seems to be more apparent every single day. Look at this. Led by younger voters, 43% of California voters feel they can't afford to live in the Golden State. Among voters 18 to 34, this shows you that 61% say they can't afford to live in California. So the younger you go, obviously, the worse off it is, simply because they're not making the salary which keeps up with all of this. They can't afford the rent, they can't afford the living expenses, and so what do? Well, you find these different places, co-op living, you have people living in areas they don't want to, but they can't afford anywhere else. This happens to be the case. They're commuting further and so on. This is just something that I thought would be important to share with you. This is going on in California, New York, and other places as well. Now, here's just a couple other similar things to what I showed you previously from Brookings. This just gives you an idea from 2016 to 2017. Wanted to give you an idea that, for example, here you're seeing Dallas is seeing the population increase, whereas Chicago is seeing that decline. Then you're looking at this. It might take a moment just to load up. Directly from the census own website, you can see it for yourself. Even though the data shows you from 2012 to 2016, it's still actually something everybody should check out. So what you do on the left hand side, you actually select what you want to see. You can choose the data set, which is basically the dates. Then below that, choose a type of migration flow, whether you want a net or outbound or inbound. In this case, I selected outbound, and then you select the bottom information as well if you so choose. Then you go around with your mouse and you can actually select the county that you want to look at, and then it will tell you in the bottom right corner migration by county, and it gives you a little breakdown there. I thought this was interesting because then you could see exactly for yourself. So you can select the place where you live or a place that you're interested in, and then it will give you that breakdown to tell you where people are going and coming from. I think that this is really interesting. Although it's a little outdated, I wanted to bring it to you. That's what I like to do. I like to give you all the sources of the data. In this case here, I wish we were getting numbers from at least 2017, but regardless, that's just something that we'll have to deal with until the new numbers arrive. And this is all I'm gonna say for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a like on this video, you are supporting me, you're supporting this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. Last but not least, if you want the financial education you were not taught in school, these two books have everything that you need. I talk about the subjects of the foundation, history, the asset classes. I get into debt, central banks, just about everything you need to know related to and surrounding the financial industry. So check them out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, that's available at themoneygps.com. People are leaving California. You got to watch this video if you haven't already. Click on it and I will see you there.